Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to take that stack of sources you have, cut through all the jargon, and just give you the core knowledge you need to get up to speed on a topic fast. Today, we're getting into the mechanics of, human genius. Specifically, that incredible thing the mind does where it makes these huge creative leaps. Connecting two things that seem completely unrelated because of some tiny hidden similarity in their deep structure. The classic one is linking the solar system to the structure of an atom. So our mission today is to unpack the science behind that, what the experts call analogical reasoning, and then compare it, really hold it up against the promises of, let's be honest, the brain training industry.
And this is really a deep dive into what cognitive scientists see as the absolute core of human intelligence. When we talk about creativity, it's not just art. It's about generating novel, useful ideas in science, in engineering, in business. So researchers in cognitive psychology and neuroscience are all over this.
Okay, let's unpack that. If our brain makes a leap, a really big one, like from water waves to sound waves, what is actually happening? What's the mechanism?
Well, the two big engines here are analogical reasoning and associative thinking. Analogical reasoning, and you've got researchers like Keith Holyoake and Douglas Hofstadter who are foundational here. It's all about ignoring the surface stuff.
The superficial details.
Exactly. It's about recognizing relational similarities. You're mapping the underlying structure, the pattern from one thing to another. The colors, the materials, none of that matters.
So a novice looks at water and just sees water. But the creative thinker sees the behavior of the wave and thinks, hey, could that pattern apply to something else, like sound in the air?
That's it, precisely. And working with that is associative thinking. Researchers like you and Kinnett study how our memory is built, and they find that really creative people are just better at finding links between concepts that, for most of us, are stored miles apart in our brain.
Okay, so that's the process. But what about the hardware? This is where it gets really interesting for me. What is neuroimaging telling us about the brains of people who are just exceptional at this?
The findings are pretty amazing. Highly creative people, their brain connectivity, it literally stays off the beaten path. It favors these less traveled neural routes. Creative thought means you have to integrate what we call semantically distant information.
Information that's stored far apart.
Very far apart. And to do that, the brain leans on the default mode network, the DMN. And that's the network associated with mind wandering, with spontaneous thought.
So that's why the aha moments always happen in the shower.
That's the classic experience. You stop drilling down on the problem, your mind wanders, and boom, the connection is made. That's how we get Velcro from burrs on a dog, or the wave theory of sound. It's a spontaneous structural analogy.
Okay, so that paints a really clear picture. High-level creativity is active, it's structural, it requires knowledge. But that brings us right to the big controversy. If that's the gold standard, what about the industry that promises a shortcut? Let's talk about the brain training games. But first, maybe frame this for us with the dual process theory from Erokhane.
Right, the dual process theory was a great lens here. It basically says we have two ways of thinking. There's system one, which is fast thinking. It's intuitive, associative, automatic. That's where a lot of those spontaneous creative leaps come from. And then you have system two, slow thinking. Deliberative, controlled, analytical, real creativity. You need system one leap, and then you need system two to check it, refine it, and validate it.
A marriage of the two. Got it. But these commercial brain games, they seem to promise they can boost this whole system through one specific thing, which is far transfer. So we need to be very clear on this. What's near transfer versus far transfer?
Near transfer is, well, it's real. It's uncontroversial. You practice a specific task, you get better at very, very similar tasks. So you play a game, you get better at that game, and maybe a nearly identical lab test.
Okay, that's logical.
But far transfer, that's the huge claim. That's the idea that getting good at a specific game will transfer to completely unrelated real-world skills. That it'll make you a better strategist, boost your general IQ, or even stave off cognitive decline.
Right, the big promise. So let's get to it. What is the scientific consensus right now in 2026 on far transfer?
The verdict is, it's overwhelming. The overall effect of far transfer from these games is null. It's zero. People get better at the games. That's near transfer, and it definitely happens. But that skill just does not seem to generalize to your day-to-day decision-making or your complex job skills. You just become a really, really good Lumosity player.
But is it totally worthless? Isn't there some placebo effect or just the benefit of feeling like you're doing something?
If you enjoy the game, fine, it's entertainment. But if you're buying it to get smarter or better at your job, the evidence just isn't there. The basic idea that the brain is like a muscle you can strengthen with isolated drills. It's just not how it works. Skills are highly context dependent. And look, this isn't just an academic debate. This had real consequences. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, actually had to step in. They legally banned Lumosity from claiming their games improve real-world performance without rigorous clinical proof.
Wow. Okay, so that's a pretty strong signal. It takes it out of the lab and into consumer protection. Let's try another lens. Let's go philosophical. Would someone like Aristotle, a master of logic, would he have agreed with his skepticism?
Oh, absolutely. Aristotle's framework is perfect for this. He would say these games improve your technique.
Technique being a specific craft.
Exactly. Like shoemaking. Or in this case, being good at a puzzle. It's a contained skill. But he would argue very strongly that improving technique does not build phronesis.
And phronesis is?
Practical wisdom is what you need to navigate the messy realities of life. Managing a team, handling a budget crisis. Those things require judgment and experience with, particulars of the situation. Getting faster at a pattern game doesn't teach you how to handle a difficult employee.
That makes perfect sense. The clean rules of a game versus the messiness of the real world. But that does raise a really persistent question. If far transfer is a myth, why are these super intelligent people like chess grandmasters so often good at these cognitive tasks too? It looks like transfer is happening for them. Take Magnus Carlsen. He's dominant in chess 960, which basically gets rid of memorized openings, all on-the-spot adaptation. Doesn't that prove he has a transferable skill?
It looks like it, but it's a classic mix-up of correlation and causation. Carlsen's advantage isn't a skill that transfers from chess.
So his chess mastery didn't cause him to be good at other things?
No. His chess mastery is a result of his pre-existing superior cognitive hardware. He already has incredibly high working memory, processing speed, selective function. That's the engine.
So he's good at chess, and he's good at brain games for the same underlying reason. The games didn't build the engine.
Precisely. The only real transfer is what we call mechanistic overlap. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain for focus, is used for chess and for a budget spreadsheet.
Okay.
But that's not functional overlap. Just because you practice focusing on a racetrack doesn't mean you now know how to navigate a delivery truck through rush hour traffic. The context, the goal, the actual function is totally different.
That's a great analogy. You've improved one component, but you don't know the route.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if passive training doesn't work, what is the one definitive way to achieve real far transfer? The kind that actually makes you better across different areas of your life.
The only proven way is to actively, deliberately become a better analogist. The skill that transfers isn't passive speed, it's a conscious, active process of structural mapping. You have to train yourself to strip away the surface features of a problem, the game's graphics, the names on an org chart, and see the deep structure, the underlying logic.
So you have to build that bridge yourself. It's not going to appear automatically just because you practice the task.
You have to build it. Think about a baby. That incredible leap from physically gripping a toy to using the concept of grasping to get a social goal, like attention. That's a powerful analogical transfer. The baby is ignoring the surface features of the motor skill and applying the deep structure of securing a target.
And as adults, we have to do that consciously.
We have to. You have to ask the question, how is the resource management in this game like the budget I'm managing at work? That active question is what builds the bridge. The bridge does not build itself.
And this active approach also helps us avoid bad analogies, right?
Yeah.
The ones that are just based on superficial looks.
Absolutely. The classic example is seeing water swirl down a toilet and thinking, the Coriolis effect, just like planetary rotation.
I think we've all done that.
It's a very compelling but totally false superficial analogy. The physics are completely different. An expert immediately knows that similarity is useless for making any real predictions.
So what we've learned today is that the real engine of creativity, of transfer, is this active skill of analogical reasoning. It's about deliberately connecting dots by understanding the deep patterns of things.
Right, and what's so fascinating now is that we're seeing AI models start to show abilities that, well, they look a lot like spontaneous bar transfer in logic tasks.
They're solving problems they weren't explicitly trained for.
Exactly. But, and this is a big but, even the best AI really struggles when that contextual distance involves messy, physical, common sense reality. They can do the math, but they can't apply it to navigating a real shifting iceberg. That's still the human advantage.
So, what's the big takeaway for you listening? The experts are telling us that real mastery is about getting better at seeing and using patterns, that deep structure. If you want a skill to transfer, you have to do the work. you have to build that analogical bridge yourself. And here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. If the greatest chess player's real advantage is his ability to adapt instantly to new patterns, to see the deep structure of a new game, how can you redesign your own learning process to focus on finding those transferable principles instead of just memorizing the surface features of whatever task is in front of you today? Until next time, keep that deep structure